Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. This week we've got UFC in Mexico City. So really interesting UFC in the sense that it's at 7,000 feet above sea level. Changes everything with the fight. So it's tough from a betting perspective, especially when you look at the card, and it's quite a low level card as well. Quick recap on last week, as we always do. Pre-bets or pre-bet. Well, one of them didn't come in. The main one didn't come in. Pre-bets have sucked the last couple of weeks. I'm not hiding from it. It's all there in black and white. Everything's third-party tracked. So we had 2.5 units on Antonio Carlos Jr. Didn't come in. I did have a bet on Glover Teixeira. Put a couple of units on him, but foolishly I fell for the injury rumour mill that his shoulder was dud going into the fight. So I bought out of the bet. Cost myself almost a couple of units profit by buying out of that. I'm not falling for that injury mill rumour again. It's happened in the past and it never seems to have any reflection on the fight. The only time I can remember it coming into play was when I bet Claudia Gadelha against Carla Esparza. There was huge line movement. I think it was the day of the fight. Claudia went from like minus 300 all the way down to, I'm sure it ended up closing near enough evens. It was huge movement, and turns out she did go into that fight with I think it was a pre-existing knee injury, and she ended up, I think she blew it out during the fight and ended up needing surgery after the fight. But I mean, she still won the fight, but that's the only time I can really remember it being like really noticeable. You had the DC back injury rumour against Derek Lewis, and the line shortened somewhat, and he still blew him away. So I'm just ignoring that now. Stuff that we don't know about, it's out of our hands, guys. You know, you can make a bet on someone, you don't know if they're injured. So you hear these rumour mills, you don't know how serious it is, you don't know how true it is. I'm not going to make that mistake again. That's something I'm going to learn from, and I'm just going to let it ride, even if I hear these rumours from now on. It's just part and parcel of the game. Fighters go into, pretty much every fighter goes into a fight injured or has some kind of knock of some sort. I'm just going to let that ride. So that was a error that I'm going to learn from in that sense. We did have a couple of units on Michael Hunter in the boxing. It was an open parlay. Michael Hunter won. We'll be closing that 2-unit open parlay on UFC Mexcio. So hopefully that will cash for us. But we've done really well on live betting, as we always do. Over 4 units profit across the boxing and UFC on live betting. I'm doing an offer at the moment, guys. £200 for the year on live betting. That's an unprecedented offer. I know I've got a competitor out there that charges £200 per month. Like crazy pricing. All my bets are third-party track, guys. You can see the link to the third-party tracker for live betting below this video. It's also on our website, prommmabetting.com. Members that risk £100 per unit or $100 per unit are up over $8,000 or £8,000 for the year. As I've said many times on here, guys, live betting is the freest money you're ever likely to earn. If you've got access to live betting, take advantage of it. Now, I stay up every weekend. I'm in the UK, so most of the shows run through the night on a Saturday. I stay up every weekend to live bet because it's free money at the end of the day. You know, you kind of, I mean, I use £200 units on live betting. I can't use my normal pre-betting stakes because my stakes for pre-bets are 1,000, my unit size, and it's just not feasible on live betting due to limits and so forth. You just end up getting banned too quickly. So I'd use 200 per unit on live betting. You can see that on the bet slips that I post on Twitter. Always posting bet slips, and it's not just my own. I post members' bet slips as well. You'll see bet slips for different betting companies. You'll see bet slips in different currencies. Guys are making money with me on live betting, guys. It's free money. So if you've got access to live betting, if you need some help with live betting, bit of guidance, guys, £200 for the year. You'll make that back more than likely. If you use 100, even if you use 50 per unit, you're more than likely going to make that back over one show, probably 2 shows at the most. And then you've got the rest of the year to bank your profit. It's easy money, guys. So everyone in Europe has access to live betting. Canadians have access to live betting. It's a bit more hit and miss with Americans. I know you've got DSI that you can use. I know 5 times off a live betting, but it's only between rounds. I think Bet DSI offers it actually kind of in play during the rounds. But I know it's not as productive for Americans as it is for Europeans and Canadians. I'm not sure about other countries kind of outside of Europe and Canada besides America. But if you've got access to it, take the opportunity, guys. It's free money. I'll happily to do a day pass. I'll do a day pass on it for 30 quid. If you're interested, packages are on my website, but because I'm offering a special deal at the moment, DM us. So hit me up on Twitter or send us an email, info@prommmabetting.com. As I've said, it is free money, guys. Easiest money you're ever going to make. We've got a private Discord chat. You come on with the other members. We have a great laugh throughout the night. Good camaraderie. What's better than making money while you're talking to strangers? There's no other reason for me to talk to strangers unless it's to make money. So, but you know, there's a lot of guys that have been with us for a year now, all making money. It's really good opportunity. This week there's boxing actually on Thursday night in Italy, so there's going to be live betting from 8 PM UK time on Thursday. 3 fights to live bet. I don't know how it's going to be, but always have a go if there's live betting available. And then we've got the UFC on Saturday night, where we'll have, I've not checked the card, it'll be 9 or 10 fights to live bet. And guys, it is the freest money you're ever likely to earn. It is easy money. So £200 for the year. DM us, drop us an email. Day pass for £30. But as I said, the yearly subscription amount, you're going to make that back more than likely over 1 or 2 shows. Have a look at the third party tracker. All the results are all the tips that I give that members actually get. Sometimes we live bet and the odds do close quickly, so if I put out a tip and the odds close, no one gets on it or only one person gets on it, I don't track it. I only track what everyone's able to get, and sometimes the price will vary, so I'll ask members for or ask members what price they got, and if some of them have got a different price, I'll just average it out. I'm very, very transparent, guys. No one is going to call me out on transparency. Pre-bets, I always post my bet slips as well, and I also post the stakes. I prove to you guys I'm betting what I am tipping. There's a lot of paper traders out there giving out tips, they're not betting them, or you get the odd one that will post their bet slip and most of them hide the stake. It's like, well, why are you hiding the stake? You know, what are you betting, $5 units and you're asking people for money? Guys, I'm putting my balls on the line every week. I sweat more than anyone. I'm winning or losing thousands of pounds, but on the whole we win. And I've been in profit every year I've done this, on pre-betting, on live betting. It's a profitable service, but please take the long-term view, guys. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. Things like that don't exist. You've got to stick with me for the long run. It's a long-term investment. It's just like investing in stocks and shares. You don't expect to make an astronomical amount of money overnight. You've got to stick with it for the long term. That's why I'm really plugging the yearly pass at the moment. It's £200, guys. It's minimal investment. For you not to make that money back from live betting, your units will have to be astronomically small. So I would recommend, as long as your unit size is £10 or $10 or above, or even $5 or £5, it's well worthwhile registering with us for live bet. As I said, we're up over 80 units for live betting for this year. We're going to smash through 100 units for live betting. We've still got 3.5 months left. Jump on board, guys. But that's enough about the service. Going to talk about UFC Mexico. I'm going to run through these fights pretty quickly. It's a low-level card. I'm not in love with it from a fan perspective or a betting perspective, but we'll have a quick look at each fight as we run through it. See what predictions we can come up with and what we can put out there for members. I think we went 5-5 last week on predictions, so let's try and get back in the win column this week in terms of more win predictions and losses rather than a 50-50. So here we go. First fight up, we've got Claudio Peleles taking on Marcos Mariano. I like Peleles here, guys. I went back, I watched these fights through the Ultimate Fighter, showed a decent wrestling game against lower level competition, admittedly. Good grappling. He's got a really good knee bar. Saw him submit someone on the Ultimate Fighter with it, and it's what he also caught Felipe Silva with in one of the best comebacks you're ever likely to see. It wasn't as one-sided as I thought. One round was actually quite competitive with Silva. I thought he got wrecked the whole fight. It was round 2 where it went downhill for him, and then he was in trouble in round 3 as well. But he pulled that knee bar out, so great heart on the kid. Marcus Mariano, honestly, for me, he's the worst guy on the UFC roster. Anderson Silva's somehow got him in. He's just got no ground game. His stand-up, when you see him, you know, you think, oh, he looks like a lightweight version of Anderson Silva, but his stand-up's decent, but he doesn't seem to have any power. His legs are very long and skinny. I think he's ripe for a leg lock submission here, but I just think Peleles will just be able to get him to the mat and dominate. We saw how easily Lando Venata beat him. He beat him with a chicken wing submission. Like, you don't pull that off at this level, guys. That's a real low-level sub to pull off. I also saw him get cross-side armbarred a couple of years ago. Again, at this level, you don't see those type of submissions. So this guy's garbage on the mat. I think Peleles either wins a dominant decision or he locks up a submission at some point. Peleles is kind of, I don't even know if he's UFC level himself, so it's hard to be in love with the price. He's currently sitting at, he's gone up overnight. He's minus 275 now. It's hard to be in love with that, but he is a young guy. We've not seen him for a while. You know, there should be improvements there. But yeah, it's just hard to get behind that price. Peleles inside the distance is minus 130. Peleles decision plus 370. There's maybe a little bit of value on the decision line. Peleles he's a decent grappler, but he's not like a submission phenom. He's dangerous with the leg locks. He can get a bit over aggressive on the ground, which gives guys openings to get back to their feet. So look, if you have to bet every fight, for me personally, I'd look at a little tiny stab on Peleles' decision there, plus 370. But I do expect him to win. But because it's low level, the money line minus 275, maybe it's a bit high. But if you're looking for something for parlay for the guys, then I wouldn't max bet it or anything. But if you've got like a parlay in mind where you're looking to do 1 or 2 units, I don't think having Peleles as a leg is the worst idea. Next, we've got, I think is it the Betch fight? One moment. Yeah, we've got Betch Kohea taking on Sijara Eubanks. Sijara's currently sitting at minus 255, a bit steep for me. Betch gets a hard rap. Everyone seems to dig her out, but she's difficult to look good against on the feet. She always makes fights close on the feet. Is she ending the end of her athletic career? She isn't very athletic as it is. She came back last fight from a long layoff. This fight's at altitude. Look, if this stays standing, I can see it being a close fight because, as I said, no one really runs through Betch on the feet. She does make fights very close on the feet. The ace in the pack here is Sijara's takedown game. Can she get Betch down? There's not really any evidence of Betch's takedown defence. But I have to imagine that because of her lack of athleticism, I imagine if she gets taken down, she gets stuck on her back. Don't see her getting back to her feet. So on the feet, I do see it being very competitive. And there's also Sijara Eubanks' past cardio issues, and this being at altitude, that could come into play the longer the fight goes. And I do expect it to go the distance. Can she get Betch down? It's a bit of an unknown, to be fair, which is why I just can't get behind that price at minus 255. On the feet, I think this is very close. If Sijara can't get takedowns, this is going to be a close, probably split decision fight, especially if Sijara slows down, which I think she's going to. She has been out in Mexico for a few weeks. Betch, if she does get taken down, like I said, I just think she's going to be a turtle off her back, but I'm making an assumption there. So I'm going to go with... I can't get behind that price on Sijara. As I say, it's always a betting podcast, guys. Do you know what? I don't think Betch is the worst bet in the world, because if Sijara does struggle for the takedowns or slows down, I think it's going to be close as hell on the feet. So, fuck it, I'm going to pick Betch. I'm not confident in that, but from a betting angle, fight goes to decision is minus 200 actually. I'm really surprised that's so low. I think there's a bit of value there, you know. I thought that was going to be up in the minus 300s. So, fight goes to a decision, minus 200. That does intrigue me. Women's fight, guys, most of them go to decision. Trying to think how this would finish. Sijara maybe getting a sub. but outside Sijara getting a sub on the floor, she's not really shown herself to be a big submission threat. I think this goes to a decision. I'm surprised that line's so low. Really am. Interesting. So I'm going to pick Betch. I'm not confident. I'm just playing the line value. But for me, the best bet of that fight is the fight goes to a decision, sitting at -200. Next we've got Paul Craig taking on Vinicius Moreira. I don't know whose idea this was. Seems like a bit of a joke, but these two who gas at altitude, both of them have flown out late as well, so they haven't acclimated. Geez, this is going to be a messy, sloppy fight, especially if it goes deep, because they're both going to be gassed out of their minds. I've got to go with Moreira. I think he's got the stronger grappling. I can see him taking Craig down, and I don't see Craig slapping on a triangle. He's patented submission off his back here. I think Moreira is the better grappler, and I've seen Moreira finishing him, getting into man, pounding him out, or sinking a rear naked choke. It is not a confident pick because it is low level as hell. It's at altitude. They're both going to gas. Not a fight I'm interested in betting. I'd be interested in fight doesn't go to a decision, but I'm just, because it's at altitude, if you both gas, it's really tough to finish a fight then, because it just becomes really sloppy. But the pick for me is Moreira there. Sergio Pettis taking on Tyson Nam. A lot of steam's coming on Sergio Pettis. He was around -250 for a while. He opened around there. He's gone up last 24 hours to -350. Sergio, technically one of the, if not the best striker in the 125 division. Really solid fundamentally, solid as hell. Kind of the letdown for him has been his takedown defence, which not going to have to worry about here. Tyson Nam is a striker himself. He's nearly 36, Tyson, but he looks in pretty good nick for a 36-year-old. But as I've said on here before, the problem with getting on, especially at flyweight, is what flyweights rely on is their speed, reflexes, athleticism. That all starts to taper off in your early 30s generally, and he's 36 now, but he does kind of look pretty athletic for or he does look like a pretty athletic fighter. So I think maybe the slowdown for someone like him might be a little bit later than perhaps other fighters. But the problem with Tyson is he doesn't pull the trigger. It's like he just hesitates a hell of a lot. I don't know. I went back and watched 3 or 4 of his fights, and it's just every fight there's just this big hesitation with him, just not letting his hands go. I watched a fight where he knocked out Bugatinov at the end of the 3rd round, like literally last second, and he lost every minute of the fight. He got dominated. He got outstruck. I mean, yeah, there was a wrestling threat there that Ali didn't even use, but he got outstruck and just pulled out that Hail Mary head kick right at the end. But just, general theme in his fights, he just doesn't pull the trigger, just hesitates. And I just think Sergio will outwork him over the 3 rounds, just be a step above in the striking department, and I think he wins a fairly comfortable decision here, Sergio. So Sergio, the money line is a bit higher now, -350. Always look at Sergio decision, because he's not a finisher. Sergio decision, where is it? Oh, it's -210. Not great. Yeah, not really got much for you on that fight, guys. Lines, that decision line's too wide. I can't be playing that. I played. It wasn't a recommended tip, and I don't normally play props. It's tough for me to get money down on due to limits. But I did put a bet on Bilal decision the other week, and it was just a reminder of why limits prevent me from doing props. But it was also a reminder of why I don't generally play them anyway, because so many ways a fight can end, and it's MMA. Fucking Bilal Muhammad goes and finishes a fight. So yeah, I wouldn't play it at -210. It's too steep, guys. But yeah, I do think it's highly likely Sergio wins a decision there. We've got Angela Hill taking on Ariane Carnelossi. When I've done tape on Ariane, she literally reminded me of Jessica Andrade, like just from a aesthetic viewpoint. Before I watched any of her fights, her traps are bigger than Yoel Romero's. Didn't really transpire in the tape that I watched of what I was expecting. I was expecting a mini Andrade. Didn't really get that from her. Yeah, I just wasn't overly impressed. I'm just trying to think back, because I watched tape on her, it's like a week and a half ago now. I've got a great memory of it, but yeah, it wasn't what I came away liking this fight for Angela Hill. As long as her cardio holds up, she does slow down in fights, Hill, and this is at altitude. She has been in Mexico for like 3 weeks to acclimate. She's up at mine. I remember I wanted though around evens, and she's -145 now. I can't get behind -145 for Hill here, just because the altitude could play a factor, and it's always hard as well, guys. I don't really like betting on people for or against, especially against, that are coming into the UFC, because it's just hard to gauge how good they are outside of the UFC, because you don't know what their opposition has been like. Generally it's pretty low level, but you don't know, you just don't know how bad the opposition is, so it's really hard to gauge them. So I don't want to make that mistake of underestimating Ariane here either. I mean, her last fight was only a couple months ago. I can't imagine her coming in looking out of this world and much different, but it's just always something I'm hesitant with, is fading someone making their UFC debut unless they've looked absolutely garbage on tape, because they just seem to step up a level in the UFC generally. You've got fight goes to a decision, it's sitting at -333. Guys, it's high, but it's actually, I can't see this fight ending inside the distance. I really can't. Again, if you're looking for a parlay leg, I think there's, anything under -400, I think there's a bit of value there. Again, I think if you like Hill, it's not going to be much different to the money line, but Hill decision +110. Look, as I said, I don't like betting props, but if you like Hill and you want to get a bit more bang for your buck, I just can't see this. I can't see, if Hill wins, I just can't see it being anything other than a decision. And she's tough as well. If you like Carnelossi, +190 to win a decision, I think that's got value as well. I think whoever you like, especially if you like Carnelossi, I think there's, you're getting nearly +200 on the decision line there. I think that's got a lot of value, because Hill is tough as hell. And even fight goes to a decision, if you're looking for a parlay leg, I don't see that fight ending inside the decision. I thought that would be -400, -500. So yeah, I do see a bit of value there, guys, as high as the line is. Polo Hayes, Kyle Nelson. Really wanted to bet inside the distance on this, but the more I thought about it, the more I had to avoid, just because Kyle Nelson probably needs a round one finish, because he does gas. He's gassed in his previous fights. His is at altitude. He's not gone out there early to acclimate, so he probably needs a round one finish. This is at 145 as well. Hayes is cutting down to 145. His chin is already mush, but he does seem pretty durable, Kyle, as well. But it probably does end inside the distance, but I've just got this worry in my gut that if it gets past round one, Kyle gasses. I mean, Hayes will probably be okay cardio wise, but I just don't know if Kyle will be able to finish him past round one. I think this is probably Hayes' fight post round one, but Kyle seems pretty tough, so I'm not sure how easy he is to put away. So it's just my hesitation. It's been bet up now as well. It's like not to go to decision. It was at like -200. It's -250ish now, so I just couldn't get behind it. The money line's pretty much even money. I think it's a complete pass, guys. There's red flags everywhere here. It's a complete guess if you're betting this fight, in my opinion. But I think for live bet, this fight is real live, because if Carl does come out, bust a gut in round one trying to get the finish and doesn't, I think Hayes takes over. But Hayes at 145, it's just not a good idea. His chin's going to be even worse. His chin is mush already. It's not saving his career. I don't really know who's recommended he does this, if it's come from him or what, but I just think it's a bad idea. But I'm going to go with oh god, this fight's impossible to call. I'm going to go with, I'm not betting it, but I'm just going to say this ends inside the distance. I can't make a prediction. Round one, if it goes past round one, I'll say Hayes. If it ends in round one, I'll say Nelson. But I can't predict this fight, guys. My prediction is inside the distance, even though I'm not betting it, because I'm worried that Nelson gasses. He's dead after round one, but he's tough, and Hayes can't finish. So yeah, pass fight for me. Next we've got Jose Quiñónez taking on Carlos Huachin. Quiñónez looks, he's not great, but he's got a decent body lock takedown. The worry for me here with Carlos is if he slows down. We saw him slow down against Barcelos. This is at altitude. Jose, I think, trains at altitude. I don't see him slowing down. His cardio will be fine. I think Carlos probably needs to get Jose out early. And we saw against Barcelos that Carlos, he's not great on the floor, but he's dangerous on the feet. He throws with heat, but that comes at a price. It does slow him down, and now he's at altitude, so it's not a confident pick. But again, this could be another really good live bet fight if it gets out of round 1. So I'm going to go with Jose Quiñónez here to get this W. But Carlos is very dangerous, especially early. And if he doesn't slow down and Quiñónez struggles getting the body lock takedowns, then I think he's going to be in trouble here. But I have to go off what I've seen. Carlos is gassed at sea level. Now he's fighting 7,000 feet above sea level. He's got that style where you throw heavy shots. So I'm just going to assume he's going to slow down here and Quiñónez a take over. But Quiñónez is a little bit chilly. I've seen him drop multiple times. It's just dangerous fight in round 1 for him. So I'd be on Carlos here. If Carlos had solid cardio, I'd like him here. But he just didn't show that against Barcelos, and with his style at altitude, it could be a bad combination. At sea level, I'd definitely be interested in Carlos here, but as I said at the start, this altitude is a bastard. So I'll go with Quiñónez, but it's not confident. In fact, no, I'm going to pick Carlos, guys. I'm worried he gasses. But he's the underdog here. He's plus 125. If you put a gun to my head, I'd take the stab at the underdog. It definitely wouldn't be a big bet. And as I said, I'm worried he gasses. So guys, don't go crazy. And it might just be a fight, just a live bet. But obviously, if Carlos finishes in round 1, then you might not make any money at all. Because live bet angle is more for Quiñónez. So if you like Carlos, maybe even Carlos round 1. Don't think that's out yet. But Carlos inside the distance pays plus 320, so round 1 you're going to get a decent line on that, probably, I don't know, plus 700-800, but not a confident pick, guys. First fight on what I think is the main card, I think it's a 5-fight main card from what I can tell, is Martin Bravo, Stephen Peterson. Pick'em line, that's exactly how I cap it. Pick'em fight. Martin Bravo won the Ultimate Fighter. He suffered that real brutal knockout loss to Vanderlei, and then he got hurt badly against Caceres, came back into that fight. So I worry about his chin. I don't think Stephen Peterson's really the guy to exploit that. So this is going to be a high-paced fight. Peterson hasn't gone over early to acclimate, so I don't know how his cardio is going to look with his style. He's in your face. Real hard fight to call this one. It's going to be a high pace. Peterson is going to be in his face. He's going to be trying to get him down. I think Bravo's takedown defence is decent. I'm kind of leaning Bravo here, but I've just got no faith in him after the losing to Vanderlei and then the Caceres fight. I worry about his chin. I think, as I said, I think it'll be okay here. But I think the altitude probably favours him. Peterson, as I said, fights at a frantic pace, and now he's 7,000 feet above sea level. How's that cardio going to hold up? And Bravo's not he's got decent enough takedown defence and scrambling, but it's a real hard fight to be confident in. I'm going to pick Bravo, but I'm not confident one bit. I think this fight goes to a decision. That's sitting at minus 200 as well. Don't think that's the worst bet in the world. Although, as I said, I definitely prefer Sijara at the same price to go to a decision. So I'll go Bravo, but not confident. General theme guy, not confident here. The altitude's such a factor, and then most of these fights are low level. We've got Irene, Aldana, Vanessa, Melo. Irene, Aldana here for me all day. Melo is a striker, so there's no grappling threat. She's a 125er. She's up at 135. She's on a week's notice. She's fighting at altitude. She's pretty slow and plodding. Like, she's not terrible, but Irene Aldana should just be too fast and powerful for her here. Of course, no one wants to play Irene at minus 500 because she's a hard person to trust, but I do think she's a level above Melo, and she should coast here. I was going to say Aldana inside the distance is worth a little bit. It's only plus 180. It's not great for women's MMA, as much as I do think she's going to land some power shots on Melo. She hasn't really shown that finishing ability she showed in Invicta in the UFC. So yeah, I'll go with Aldana here. If she doesn't stop her, it'll be a wide decision, but minus 500 Irene Aldana. I don't know if anyone wants to play that. Askar Askarov against Brandon Moreno. Probably the fight I'm most looking forward to on this card, besides the main event. Askar, Russian, excellent wrestler. He's actually born deaf. Went back on, watched a number of his fights. We've not seen him in action for a while, so we haven't seen his stand up for a while either. So it's kind of hard to get a proper read on him. His takedowns, a lot of his takedowns came from, he would catch kicks. If people done stupid stuff like they spun for a spinning back fist, so he'd grab the body lock. From the tape I saw, he wasn't really one that would kind of initiate a takedown without someone kind of giving it to him, if you see what I mean. As I said, from giving the body lock up, from attempting something low percentage like a spinning back fist or catching a kick. Top control didn't look great either, but he did push a hard pace on the feet. A little bit wild, but he'd be in your face. I watched his fight with a Brazilian chap who's had like 40 odd fights, and he finished him in the 5th round with a lovely right hook. Askarov's a southpaw. Well, he dropped him with a right hook and wrapped up a submission, but he was badly hurt from the right hook. But yeah, he will push a pace, Askarov. Good wrestling. Top control not great, but he's one of those that just wears on you and eventually kind of gets on your back and he'll wrap up the submission. But I just don't feel I can get a full read on him. Not seen him stand up for a while. So that's where I'm kind of a little bit unsure. Brandon Moreno seems to have improved from his UFC run. He's coming off an LFA win against a guy that competed in the Olympics. Got taken down in that fight, but managed to get back to his feet pretty quickly. As I said, Askarov's top control isn't great, so I don't know if he's going to be able to keep Moreno down. I don't think he will. Moreno even showed, like in the Dustin Ortiz fight, that he's tough to hold down and keep down. So I do see this fight playing out on the feet mainly, and that's why I've not got a great read on it, because I just don't really know how good Askarov's striking is. We haven't seen it for a while, and it seems like he's fought some decent opposition in Russia, but as I said earlier, it's always hard to gauge how good someone is coming off wins over those guys, because you just don't really know how good they are. And now he's stepping into the UFC, where generally speaking the competition is all going to be solid, and Brandon Moreno's getting his second crack here in the UFC, and his striking looked better in his last LFA fight. Looked like he'd refined it a lot. So it's a tough one for me to call this. When I see it playing out on the feet, he's got a lot of hype, Askarov. I see a lot of people talking him up on the internet and so forth, but I think it's going to be a stand-up fight, and I mean Askarov is going to be in his face. He does bring pressure, but Moreno's a tough guy, man. He's fighting at home, at altitude. I'm going to go Moreno here. I'm not confident at all, but he's the one that's plus 150, and in a fight where I've not got a full read on it, and I'm definitely not confident that Askar comes in here and just runs away with it, I have to lean to the dog. So I'm going to go with Moreno, sitting at plus 150. The fight goes to a decision as well. It's like even money. Let's just have a quick look at the record. I don't think Askarov's really been to a decision, has he? But let's have a look at Moreno. Has he been finished? Because that surprises me. This fight's at 125, guys. It's very rare you see an even money line on fight goes to a decision. Brandon Moreno's never been finished. Well, he was finished on tough, wasn't he? Pantoja rear-naked him, but I think he's grown as a fighter since then. He was only like 21, 22. Let's just have a look at Askarov. I think he's a finisher. Yeah, Askarov. Yeah, this why this line's like it is. Askarov's never been to a decision. But, you know, Brandon Moreno's the best guy he's fought. And, you know, the Brazilian guy, José Tom, that I talked about, that went to the 5th round. He's got a couple of round 3 finishes as well. One was a twister. It's very low percentage. I think there's some value on that going to a decision. It's a flyweight fight, guys. Moreno's never been finished. I definitely think, it's probably going to be sweaty in parts, but I think there's value there.